to East Texas Now. You're watching the live streaming news service straight out of your East Texas newsroom. Joined with us here at the top of the hour, please welcome Jennifer Reynolds, CPA and UT Tyler, Senior Lecturer, about accounting, for sure. Jennifer, thanks so much for joining us here this morning.
You're welcome. Hi, nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well. Okay, so we know that we are in tax month, if you will. The deadline for filing your taxes coming up here very shortly, and so we thought that we would do a brief kind of Q&A on the do's and don'ts. Is that all right with you?
Great, yeah, sounds fun.
Okay, fantastic. So first, can you just give us like a little rundown? What is like top three-ish most important things to keep in mind when filing your taxes?
Well, I think the deadline is always top one. You don't want to be late. The deadline is Monday, April 15th this year. There is an extension if you need an extension to file your return, so that's important to know. But I also say equally as important is that extension is an extension just to file your return and unfortunately not to pay your taxes. So if you're going to file an extension, you still need to go ahead and pay the taxes that are due by April 15th.
Yeah, definitely something that you need to keep in mind, an important aspect, so you don't get in any kind of trouble. So when my husband and I were filing our taxes a couple years ago, we were a newlywed couple. We weren't really sure how it went, so we always went in person, although both of us only had W-2s at the time. And so our tax professional said, hey, you could probably do this on an app. And then things changed the next year, right? We had a couple small businesses. We had bought a house. We had had a kid. There was some complications in the matter. So when is that threshold to go ahead and consult a tax professional and not try and do it on your own?
Wow, I think that's a perfect example. I always say if you just have W-2 income and really nothing else going on, you should be able to do it on your own and for free. The IRS website has a couple of different options where you can e-file for free. But once you either get extra income, and that maybe not even be self-employed, but like you, it might be what people call a side hustle or, you know, the gig economy. You're selling things on Etsy or driving for Uber, things like that. Then sometimes I do think it's worth it to consult a tax professional. Laws change every year. Not only do you want to do things correctly, but you don't want to miss out on any deductions or credits that you might be due. No one wants to pay more taxes than they legally have to pay. So consulting with a CPA who has that expertise and is keeping up on all the current changes, I think becomes important then. Another situation where I say you might want to consult with a CPA is you may not have a side business, but you might have sold something, whether it's some property or you inherited something or you got stock options for work. So just unusual things outside of that W-2, I think might be worth consulting just to make sure, like I said, you're not paying any more than you're supposed to pay.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I don't know if you'll have any kind of expertise on this, but just as a personal question, I've seen some different tax professionals, right? The companies that you see, there's like a handful of different companies saying, oh, we guarantee to get you the most back, and we guarantee you to get the most. Is there anything, is there tips and tricks to that when it's something as simple as a W-2 in getting more back in one than the other?
No, it's kind of one of the things that frustrates me the most as a CPA. It is what it is at this point. Now, there's a lot of reasons to get a CPA before your tax year starts because there are lots of tax planning strategies for businesses if you're going to sell property. But once everything is done, it is what it is. Some people might compare, well, my neighbor got a bigger refund, but that could be based also on how much withholding you had and how much you had paid in. If you paid in more than what you owed, you're going to get a refund. If you didn't pay in as much as you owed, you're going to have to pay. So yeah, by the time the end of the year rolls around, you just want someone with expertise to report things correctly, to take the deductions you're entitled to.
So at that point, it's more cost efficient or more financially, fiscally responsible to then go for who is charging you less by the end of the year. You're not going to get more bang for your buck with somebody towards the end of the year because it is what it is, right?
Right. Right. Well, again, I think especially if you've got some complex things going on, you do want someone with expertise. There is value in that for sure. But one person with expertise over another person with expertise, there's no trick that they can do to get you more back. The law is what it is, and you've got to follow the law. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Now, has there been any trends when it comes to the amount of refund money people are getting? There, in years past, with different incentives, with that tax child credit a couple years ago, there was a big boom in tax refund money, right? Everyone got so much more. And then there'll be some other years where collectively as a whole, it's just not as much as we've seen in the last handful of years or so. So is there a trend for this year?
So we are seeing that. I call this kind of a stabilizer year. It's one of the first years we've had in a while since COVID that things weren't just drastically changing, and we had these extra influx of stimulus checks or extra child tax credit. So I think for some people, yes, they're seeing less of a refund simply because we're not getting those extra payments that we saw in 2020, 2021. Even some business credits are tapering out. So some of those things are going away, and we are seeing a little bit less, yes.
That makes sense, and it makes sense that you need to know that going in so that you're not, have already spent the refund money in your head that you think. When it comes to that, spending this tax refund money, do you have any suggestions or any advice on what to or not to spend it on?
Well, suggestion as well as what we see historically. We see a lot of people go out and purchase cars and houses with their refund money. Often the refund money is your own money coming back to you. You have had it taken out of your paycheck all year long and you didn't owe that much, so you get a refund. Sometimes it's not your own money, it's a credit like the child earned income credit or child tax credit. But it is a nice way to say, wow, I'm not used to having an extra $4,000 in my pocket. Let me go put a large down payment on a vehicle or add it to what I've been saving for a house. And I think those are great opportunities for people, especially people who either just struggle with the discipline of saving or just frankly don't make enough money all year long to save. It's a great time to use that money to invest in something like a house that you need.
Definitely get a step ahead with the big chunk coming at you all at one time to be able to take that next step or add to taking towards that next step in the dreams that we all have. Well, Jennifer, before we go, is there anything that you want to leave East Texas Now viewers? If there's one thing that you could leave us with when it comes to your taxes. I know, that's a big question.
Yeah, there's always a lot. I would love to remind folks about phishing and what they call smishing scams. So these are hackers that are trying to access your personal information through emails. And then in recent years, we've seen a big increase in text messages. And they use the IRS often because that strikes some fear in us. No one wants to be in trouble with the IRS. And they might even say, your account is on hold, you're past due, click this link. So the IRS tells us that they almost never initiate, so for the first time, contact you via email or text. It's always going to be via regular mail on the initial contact. So if you get a text or an email with some sort of link, don't click on it. They're probably just phishing for your personal information, and it's a scam.
A great word of warning to all of us as we are unsure, and I think a lot of us just don't want to get in trouble, right? And so you might act on that more so than if you think it's from anybody else, because you don't want to get in trouble with the IRS, and we know that they don't mess around. Once again, Jennifer Reynolds, CPA, thank you so much for joining us here on East Texas Now, talking all things taxes.
Thank you for having me.